All right, guys, this is Tiqqle. I'm here with my PvP guide for 7.3 a little bit after the release of the patch, but I wanted to make sure I'm confident with what I'm going to tell you for this. Disclaimer, I am not a gladiator. I am just an elemental shaman with a dream, okay? So those that are looking for the gladiator guides, please, don't be too salty with my views. This is my opinions. This is how I play. So I want to share it with you guys. There's a big call out here, guys. I think there's so much to cover in these videos about PvP guides. There's battlegrounds, there's arenas, there's UI, there's even keybinds and macros, the little things, and then there's how to do damage. So I've split it up into 5 different videos. This is the first video: talents, honor talents, and how to do damage. In this video, we're going to cover a lot, but there's a lot more to talk about: positioning, what talents to take when, all that stuff. We are going to get into that in the other videos as well, so I want to make sure you know what's in this one. As I said, guys, this is the first of the series. This is talents, honor talents, and how to do damage. We're going to cover just that in this video, starting with talents, going to honor talents, and then going through a very in-depth breakdown of how to do damage as an elemental shaman. We are in a great place this patch. I want to emphasize, guys, the way I break it down, I think, is a really specific in the weeds detail of what buttons to press when. I have some general tips, some general numbers from LA Shaman damage, and then I'm also going to show you guys how to do the burst, how to do the DMGs. So I want you to stick around towards the end. I'm going to put timestamps in the comments for this video so you can jump around wherever you need to, but we're starting with talents, so let's get into it. All right, guys, starting with talents. In 7.3, I've kind of branched out a little bit, mostly because of what happened in 7.2.5, where elementals weren't really in a great place. I had to get creative. So I found out some pretty cool builds that are a little bit different than the vanilla one that you're probably seeing on me now if you armory me, and also what you see with other players. I have 2 specific builds, mostly for arena. I will explain some of the details of what I switch up for battlegrounds in this part, but that will also be part of the battleground video. That will be a separate video. So specifically for the 2 builds, I have the pet build, which I use against melee, double melee in 3s, and sometimes mages. Sometimes mages because using the pet build, it gives me actually 2 additional interrupts on mages. This means I can possibly stop 2 polys. I can possibly stop the opening for mages twice with the knock up from the storm elemental and the stun from the earth elemental. Okay, I also sometimes take them for a few different comps, but we'll go over that in the arena video as well. The next one is the meatball build. This is against melee caster or caster. Heavy on the kiting, heavy on the procs. So we'll get into that now. One other thing to note, guys, I'm not going to go through every single talent. I'm going to go through the builds that I use. If you want every single talent, tell me in the comments. If you want my opinion on each of them, let me know. There's a lot of videos out there that already do this. I'm talking about my builds, what I like to play, and why. But starting with the pet build, listen, the pets, they're fierce, okay? They have a lot of additional abilities that are a little underrated. Specifically, Storm Elemental's knock up is another interrupt. It's another CC. It messes up druids and paladins. When a paladin is knocked up during freedom, guess what? Freedom isn't doing shit. He's in the air. He's flying. The earth elemental stun, that is another stun hard CC in a comp where you don't have a lot of stuns. Maybe a DK comp. Maybe a Shadow Priest isn't the best example, but it could be. So there's a few areas where that DR is not really being used. It's a great one for that. Be careful of the DRs, though. They will kind of build up. Luckily, getting knocked up in the air doesn't have a DR. So for this build, I take Path of Flame, mostly because Lava Burst's kind of fixed earlier on. They fixed it from doing 25% less damage, and they kind of undid that bug. So now Lava Burst is hitting for a lot. Keeping that for a few reasons. One, because it helps spread on melee stacked on top of each other. It kind of saves me a global because Flame Shot gets spread, but also because the plus 10% damage is rock solid. So for the level 45 tier, it depends on your comp. It depends on who you're against. If your comp has heavy stuns, you don't want to DR that with the H Paladin. Be careful. If you're playing with a rot comp, then you probably don't want to take Earth Grab because your roots will break. So it depends. For melee versus melee, I really do switch between either of them, depending on what's going on. It's great to root a warrior behind a pillar. It's magical. For the level 60 tier, I take most of the time Ancestral Swiftness, unless I'm going to be earthquaking a lot. So I sometimes will take Aftershock if I will be dumping into Earthquake. Sometimes I stack 2 Earthquakes on top of each other. Really messes up melee, can give my team a breather. If you look in one of my latest videos at 2100, it saved my boomkin from getting hit let him get some more damage. It knocked down a DK, and probably knocked down a warrior that were stacking all over him. So it can be great. But the key there is it's not for damage of Earthshock. It's not to get more Earthshock stuns. It's literally only for the utility of the Earthquake. Here's why, okay? Looking at the benefits of Aftershock versus Ancestral Swiftness. Listen, Aftershock only helps your Earthshocks and your Earthquakes. That means it's only helping you do damage. Ancestral Swiftness is helping you do everything. It's helping your tick damage. It's helping all of your damaging abilities cast faster. It's doing helping your healing. It's helping your hexes. It's doing all of that. Okay, if that's not enough, it's also helping your global cooldown time. It's reducing that. And if that's not enough, to bring it into DPS terms, if you think about it, your lava bursts, they do 500k damage. The cast time would be reduced by 0.1 seconds. If you do the math, that's decreasing your DPS by 30k DPS a second by not taking it. So having the decreased cast time is actually increasing your damage by 30k a second. Obviously, you're not always casting. You're not keeping up that much DPS. But that actually will map out to more damage over the longer duration of the game. Sure, if it's for one additional Earthshock versus 10 casts, then sure, maybe it makes sense. But to be honest, over the longevity of a game, the increased haste is just going to be overall just more beneficial. So here, guys, the only reason to take it is if you think you need the knockdowns from Earthquakes, or if you think the healer will be coming into the fight. For example, melee wings. That is a great time to get Earthquake damage on all three of them. That is when you think, that's when you should take Aftershock, is when you're going to be stacking EQs. Not for Earthshocks. Sorry, guys. The next tier, so this is the pet build, so obviously we're going to take Primal Elementalist. What this does is it empowers your elementals, increases their damage, and it actually increases their damage by a lot. So you have two pets, given this and the next tier talent of Storm Elemental. You have your Greater Storm Elemental, which, by the way, does 300k per 1.5 seconds. That's basically another Lava Burst, guys. That's a huge amount of damage, and guess what? He crits a lot. So he's doing 350k while you're doing probably 300k DPS. So it's almost a plus of like 200k DPS. If you look at this match that I played, you can see I don't even know if he was out the entire time, and he did 2 million damage. Obviously, I was just testing for this ability, but I wanted to show you this is no joke. He does a shitload of damage. So the whole point in this comp and this setup is you're going to get out a huge amount of damage with those advanced pets, even if you're getting sat on. If they're interrupting all of your skills, this pet is still going to go ham on their faces. So that's why I definitely recommend it for this build. The other piece of this is between Storm Elemental and Primal Elementalist, you're getting two awesome abilities I mentioned before. You're getting a 4-second stun through the Earth Elemental. He's a beast, okay? He stuns, and he doesn't give a single fuck about it, okay? Then Storm Elemental, he has his knock-up. Knock-up in the air is almost like, it's got to be like a 4-second stun, except there's no DR because you get knocked up in the air. What can you do? You can't heal. You're literally in the air. It's the best thing ever. It's my most fun thing to do in Arena, period. But anyway, those are the two additional abilities. Those are two additional CCs. It's really, really powerful, and I think it's a little undervalued right now. So I definitely recommend trying that out. Ice Fury for the last tier, of course, the combination of Ice Fury and the Frost Shocks right now is just bonkers. They do a ton of damage, especially as you'll see later in this guide, I go over the details of how to burst with Ice Fury the most effectively. The other build I mentioned was the Meatball build. Now, of course, this is kind of the build that everyone's kind of running. What you have is Path of Flame, Gust of Wind, as I said, critical for Lava Burst, critical for kiting. Switching between Stun and Root, depending on your comp, depending on the enemy. For Battlegrounds, again, I switch between them. It's a flag carry map. I usually take Earth Grab. If it's a AB or a Gilneas, I take Stun Totem. I take the Haste again as my level 60 tier. I take Elemental Fusion for 75. I want to maximize my Lava Burst procs. It does so much. It increases the number of elemental focuses I get, increasing spellcast by 10%. It decreases the cooldown on Flame Elemental or Storm Elemental, which we all know now they do a shitload of damage. So it's really critical that we take that as well. Echo of Elements is great. It gives us another long cast of something that we know is going to crit. And what that does is allows us to weave in Frost Shocks with those casts or Earth Shocks or any type of instant cast proc we get. And as you will see later in the guide, that is critical for the Elemental Shaman burst today. weaving in casts and having those casts available, and also weaving in those frost shocks is really critical. And then we take Ice Fury because it's just the king right now of the 100 tier talents. So that is the meatball build. And that kind of wraps up talents. Jumping into the honor talents. Really, honor talents are going to be depending on who you're against, what you're doing, what map it is, what comp you're running. So I have all these highlighted here are the ones I'm going to talk about. Trinket is just critical in most cases. The only time I take Relentless is if there's a ton of stuns. I'm an orc, so I take that when there's a ton of stuns. When it's a warrior and maybe a monk or a warrior paladin, I'm taking Relentlessness. Whenever there's a rogue and some other stunner, that's when I'm taking actually, no, I take that back. If it's not a sub rogue, lol. So that's the first tier. I think that's pretty no-brainer. For the third tier, I take Sky Fury 95% of the time. I think the increased crit damage to your heals and your damaging abilities is critical. It helps my healer, helps my other spell cleave partners. It's really, really good all around. Now, Counter-Strike, I actually have been using sometimes lately. Now that I'm kind of above the 2K 2.1 MMR, it's interesting how because of my comps that I've been running, I haven't been getting focused. So I can use Counter-Strike really far away, and because they're tunneling, because they're so focused, a lot of the times if they're melee, they're not hitting it too often. They have to run over and smack it. So like, there's a video I put up recently of a feral survival that totally got wrecked by the Counter-Strike. They were just so focused on killing my monk, who's a squishy little guy, they just totally ignored it. So it had a lot of use. Now, was it better than Sky Fury? Hard to say. I think it's a pretty good mechanism to get peeling going for a healer. If they're focusing healers, this is a good mechanism because they're very tunneled on interrupts, CCing off DPS, all of that. They're not as focused on the Counter-Strike totem. It could be pretty good. The fourth tier is for the healing abilities. Healing abilities specifically are around who you're against. If we're against a double caster team, I will take Swelling Waves most likely. But because Swelling Waves is really the best way to self-heal myself, so that's why I can help my healer in case I know it's a long game. I will take Spectral Recovery if I think I'm going to be kiting a lot and I won't be able to cast anything, and there's nothing to purge, because I will take Purifying Water in many cases that I'm against a mage, a Resto Druid, a Destro Warlock. Many of these classes that get abilities might even not be all healing or defensive. Even offensive abilities, I can purge all that off and slow down damage and give us kind of an edge. And all those purges, which I usually go purging, watch some of my games against any Resto Druid, this is where I'm going to be getting a ton of healing back. Is it more than Swelling Waves? I don't know, but it allows me to stay offensive while getting some passive healing. The other two don't really allow me to do that. The next two are kind of no-brainers given the meta right now. Fire and Ice is just increasing your Frost Shock damage and giving your Flame Shock, giving you Maelstrom back, just critical. Earth Fury Stun is another critical piece. I would suggest everyone check out my macros and UI videos. I'm going to be showing you the macros I use with my Earth Shocks to be able to stun healers mid-cast on focus and all of that. I think it's critical, and I'm not sure how many people are really thinking, oh, I should be setting up a macro for this. Earth Shock the focus. Given that I have Maelstrom, it's another interrupt. And that's how you really can start to get people behind. It's not always for the kill. So that kind of walks through. So these apply across pretty much most comps, but it will depend on what you're going against and how you're playing and what you're facing. So these are variable, but no matter if you're the pet build or the meatball build, this is kind of what you need to be thinking about when you take these. A lot of variation in the healing one, the first tier sometimes, depending on if you're orc, and then the the totem one. If you want me to go into more detail on every one of these talents, please let me know in the comments. Happy to do a quick video on that. Guys, the next section of the video is about how to do damage. First thing I want to go over with you guys, I don't think it's the most important thing I'm going to cover, but I want to go over how much damage each of these abilities are doing to give you an idea, because I don't think everyone takes a second to focus on, hey, how much damage is this really doing? Like, what's the deal here? How should I be approaching this? So I want to kind of break it down, starting with the top of the list, Flame Shock. Flame Shock will do the most damage in your BGs, in your arenas, in anything, because it's just rotting everyone down. It's doing actually a lot of damage. Ticks are around 80 to 100k, depending on the crits or not. It's a great rot mechanism and also generates your Maelstrom. Also gives you the instant cast lava burst. You'll see me when I play Battlegrounds. Check out some of those videos. I am just throwing meatballs everywhere because I throw flame shock on everyone. It gives me Maelstrom and it lets me just chuck them. So it's great. That's number one critical. The second piece is your pet. I think this is undervalued, and I think people are kind of missing the boat here. The pets do a shitload of damage. You need to be using that out of the gate early because you want to get that on cooldown and start to come back. They do a ton of passive damage. You don't have to control them. They're just going to hit your target, and they're going to hit it for a really long time. So I definitely think everyone needs to be using these pets on cooldown. They do a ton of damage. Next, Earthshock. Earthshock does between 500k to 1.2 million. It does a lot of damage, okay, but it also stuns. So I think this is something that people are very aware of, that this can crit very, very high. But I don't think it's necessarily one of the most dependable skills. Sometimes 50k to 1.2 million is really far ranging. So it has to do with Sky Fury. It has to do if it crits. The next is Ice Fury. Ice Fury is fourth on the list, but really it's our bread and butter. This is key. We need to be using Ice Fury because of a few reasons. It's great because, hey, look, it enhances my frost shocks, but actually Ice Fury itself hits for a ton. Not only because it normally just hits for a lot, it can also have your mastery proc, and it could cast a second time, doing almost 400k afterwards. Meaning you could do 1 million damage using Ice Fury, and then you could follow it up by an instant cast 400 to 800k frost shock. You're talking 1.5 million, guys. It's a lot. And in the next part of the video, I will go over how to do the instant cast combination. So just hold on for that. The next piece is Stormkeeper. I think this is a little confusing because what it does is it gives you 3 instant cast lightning bolts or chain lightnings. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit used, a little unmanaged. I think people are just using it because it gives you instant cast, but really you should be holding it for 2 scenarios. One scenario, you have 3 enemies at least stacked on top of each other. In that case, use it and then chain lightning the shit out of them. It will do so much damage, mostly because when you use it, it procs one of your artifact power traits, and it will double cast chain lightning on all the targets that it hits, basically saying if you hit 3 targets with chain lightning, it will cast 3 more chain lightnings. So that's a ton of damage, but that's the only case you should use it for chain lightning. Otherwise, you should save your Stormkeeper for when you get the proc of Power of the Maelstrom. This is an ability, a proc that comes from your artifact trait. Okay, people kind of undervalue it, but to be honest, it's one of the most important things for an LA Shaman, and it does so much damage. What it does is it allows your lightning bolt to trigger elemental overload an additional time, meaning you cast 1 lightning bolt. Your mastery procs it a second time, and then this procs it a third time. You're doing a shitload of damage. It's one of the highest burst mechanisms an elemental shaman has, and people don't know about it. I don't think very many people manage it well because it just pops up on your screen, and you either need a weak aura or something to manage that, and I will have that in my UI video as well in case you're interested there. But it's just really a shitload of damage for lightning bolt single target damage. So guys, please be on the lookout for that. Let me know what you think in the comments of this ability. I know it's a little bit tough to manage. Okay, the next is what we all love. It's the meatball tossing. Okay, we're throwing meatballs all the time, and those are doing between 500k damage and possibly another 400 to 400k based on mastery, making each meatball potentially 800k. That's a lot of damage, guys. Spicy meatballs. Next, lightning bolt. Lightning bolts doing 200k. Chain lightning depends on the targets. Lastly, earthquake. Earthquake does pretty good damage. 110k a tick. With 3 targets, if you're going against a Holy Paladin team or you got the enemy team bundled up, drop 2. So drop those down and then start getting that Maelstrom back through your instant casts. Using Stormkeeper is a great way to get it, and you can stack those up for the BGs or, just for Arena. So it's actually very useful. But it's at the bottom because, again, it does cost a lot of Maelstrom. There's a lot of other abilities that do a lot of single target damage that are pretty competitive with that. So another thing I want to bring up before I go into the general bursting, okay, is Elemental Focus. Elemental Focus is a passive skill that you get when you crit, meaning all your lava bursts, when they have Flame Shock, will crit, giving you plus 10% damage on your next 2 spells. This is really important to manage well. It can increase your damage by 10% pretty much all around if you're weaving skills together, as you will see in the next section. I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware you got this, and you better be watching it. Going into the biggest tip, guys, this is the biggest tip for bursting I can give any caster, any shaman, anyone really that's really interested in managing global cooldowns well. Okay? It's using skills that are cast abilities like Ice Fury, like shown here, which will start a 1.6 second cast. When you use a spell, whenever you use any ability in this entire game, most of them, you will start a 1.5 second global cooldown. Okay, so if you think about it, if you start a cast that's 1.6 seconds, that global cooldown will be done by the time the cast ends, meaning you can press another ability. Meaning, when the target gets hit by your Ice Fury, it can also get hit by a Frost Shock that you just enhanced by 400% damage. It is the single biggest tip I can give anyone listening to this video right now is use those instant casts only after you cast. Or if you're, if you're willy-nilly and you can just start using your procs, that's fine. But you can bring them together, your procs together with your casts, saying, okay, every single time you Ice Fury, you should be either instant lava bursting or using Frost Shock. It is so critical. It will increase your damage so much if you do this, guys. I swear to you. This is the biggest tip. So what I'll do now is let me show you what I mean. Guys, I'm here at the PvP Dummy org. I want to show you what it looks like to go through what I was just explaining with the casting and then using an instant cast right after. Okay, so specifically for Ice Fury, when you cast it, you will get the empowered next 4 Frost Shocks. What this means is at the end of the cast, with that global cooldown that you saw just started, I will use a Frost Shock instantly. So basically what I'm going to use, start the cast and start clicking Frost Shock, and that way I get both of them done in one attack. Basically, the damage on the PvP dummy is not right, but it could be 600k-ish for the Ice Fury, and it could be another at least 400k for Frost Shock. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying using an instant after you use a full cast. So really, if I had 4 Frost Shocks up, and I'll show that to you in a second, what I would want to do is not just sit here and go 1, 2, 3, 4. What I want to do is I want to weave it between some casts that I'm doing. Even if I'm healing, I could heal myself and Frost Shock. Like I could Hex and then Frost Shock a different target. So it's kind of like that. So if I do it again, this is how I'll weave it. So first, what I like to do is I like to start with Lava Burst, because that gives me 2 stacks of Elemental Focus, increasing damage by 10%. Use Ice Fury, and then a Frost Shock. I'm going to use Lava Burst, Frost Shock. I'm going to heal, Frost Shock. I'm going to use another Lava Burst, Frost Shock. See how this is bursting together instead of having each global being kind of boring, like click, global, 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 global. I'm weaving stuff through not only to enhance the damage, but because it's just higher spiky damage. Meaning I could go, oh, got him, okay, all right, I'm running, casting Lava Burst, Frost Shock, 1,000,000 damage. Casting in some Ice Fury on this target, Frost Shock, burst damage. That's 1,000,000 damage usually. So that's what I meant by that. So let's go on to kind of just the biggest burst we can do in what order. So that'll hopefully help. Guys, now we're at the good part, the juicy part, the Elemental Shaman bursting. How do we do it? We're going to leverage everything we just talked about full casting and then using instant casts here. And I'm going to walk you through step by step how you should approach it and then show you what it looks like. So first of all, what do you start with? Flame Shock, of course. We need this to be up at all times. It allows our Lava Burst to crit, and it's just overall good damage. Next, we need to pop out our elementals. This is either going to be your Flame Elemental or your Storm Elemental. This is going to be doing damage passively by your side and pretty big damage. Next, we bring out, using our 3rd GCD, we bring out our Sky Fury, and now we start the DMGs. Let's show you what that looks like. First, we start with a Lava Burst. We want those plus 10% Elemental Focus stacks up. Then comes the biggest hitting combo we can do. It's one of 3 options, guys. If you have full Maelstrom, you can use Earth Shock with it. If you have a Lava Surge proc, that would be second priority because Lava Burst would be, second to damage to Earth Shock. And otherwise, if you don't have Max Maelstrom or you don't have a Lava Surge, just use the Frost Shock. So what you do is you full cast on Ice Fury, and then you throw in that secondary instant cast ability right at the end of it. That's doing probably close to 1.2 million. If it crits, it'll go to 1.5 plus. It's going to do a lot. Then what you do is you use another full cast Lava Burst, or if you have a proc, use a proc, and then go to the full cast Lava Burst, throw in a Frost Shock at the end of that. Lastly, if you got a Power of the Maelstrom proc, use your Stormkeeper. bring it out and start pumping into them with those lightning bolts. You will be doing so much damage, so many procs. If you did not get a Power of the Maelstrom and they're stacked on top of each other, you can still use Stormkeeper and Chain Lightning the shit out of them while they're stacked up on each other. And guys, that is the burst combo. Pretty simple. It takes a lot of practice to get very comfortable with this, but it's critical. This is the 7 GCDs that will bring your enemies down. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like in practice. All right, guys, we're back at the PvP dummy. I'm going to show you. I just, left to reset my cooldowns. I'm going to show you the burst combo I just walked through with you guys. I'm going to go a little bit slower, and I want you to take it slow too, because it takes a second to get a handle of, not only because of, what could happen in between, the different procs that could come up to be able to handle, but I just want to show you what the burst looks like step by step, okay? So, all right, so we're going to step through this. I'm hitting the PvP dummy so I can use Sky Fury. So it's really those 7 steps. With 6, the 6th step could, be 2 times, but that's okay. So here's my my Flame Shock always goes up. I use my pet. I use Sky Fury. I need to get 1 Lava Burst. I got a proc. I'm lucky. I'm going to use Ice Fury, following by a Frost Shock. Boom. Now I'm going to use a Lava Burst, followed by a Frost Shock. Boom. Those big spikes of damage. I have Power of the Maelstrom up. That means I use my Stormkeeper, and then I use 3 on him. Bada bing, bada boom. And now again, if after that you saw that I have, I can do a Lava Burst, Earth Shock. That is a huge burst of damage, usually over 1 million. I mean, that's how we do it. So that's really the burst. That's not full speed, but to be honest, there's so many variables. I want you guys to focus and practice just doing it a little bit slow. So Ice Fury, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Frost Shock. I want you guys to just try doing it. Try pairing instance with full casts. Even if it's a heal, I could heal full Frost Shock. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here, guys. Obviously, the damage numbers here aren't totally correct, but I think it's great to pair instance with your full cast abilities. And the strongest, as you saw in the last page, was the combination of, if I have full Maelstrom, I can do a combo of, I can do Sky Fury, and then you can already see it coming, I can do Ice Fury with an Earth Shock afterwards. Biggest combo. And then I can use my instance after that if I need to. Hard cast, Lava Burst, pop. I have Power of the Maelstrom up again. That means it's Stormkeeper time. Oh yeah. So guys, that's kind of a breakdown of the burst. I would encourage you, if you need it, slow it down. Look at my abilities. I'm clicking on the top. It's exactly what I said earlier, and I hope this is going to help you. This obviously doesn't cover positioning, but this is how to do the DMGs. So, guys, if you have questions about this, suggestions, anything like that, or you want to see this in a different way, or slow it down, speed it up, whatever it is, put it in the comments. I want to know it from you guys, okay? All right, guys, that's the PvP guide for the talents, honor talents, and rotation. I really hope it was helpful. I went into pretty big depth on the rotation. I wanted to give you guys a very clear picture of how to use the abilities, in what order, what buttons to press. Guys, I want you to tell me if this is helpful. If it's not, what can be better? You guys tell me, and I'll try to help you out as much as I can. We will be putting up more videos around keybinds, arena, BG, UI. That's all coming. But guys, I want to know, do you guys like this style? Do you think something would be different? I want you guys to tell me below, and let me know if any of these tips are helping you. Also, let me know what you think of those nasty pets. Okay, guys? Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Appreciate all your guys' support. Have a good one.